I knew that I would be super out of it if I passed out, obviously, but the fact that I didn't pass out, and it was just, but I don't stand like that, you know, because obviously it makes me feel bad. Hey, you guys, it's Friday, and I had the last bit of the autonomic testing done today. I did the full tilt test, which was a lot harder than I expected it to be, but I didn't pass out, so I felt like a rock star. So I had 2 harnesses on, 2 like EKG harnesses, and I had like double stickers up here and on this side. Then I had them on my chest and my abdomen and my hips, and some of them were singles and some were doubles. I'd never seen that kind before. And I had on, it was like she called it a cranial Doppler cage, and it's like this big band that goes all the way around your head. She like ratcheted it down, and then there's like a hole kind of thing in the cage over here, and she put the sonogram gel on the Doppler and then attached it to the cage so I could hear my heartbeat from like 14 different places. It was what else? I had nasal cannulas in. Instead of giving me something, they were reading how much CO2 I was exhaling. I had a pulse ox on that finger. I had a huge blood pressure cuff on that arm, and it went from my shoulder all the way to my elbow, and it was so huge. And because I'm so tiny right now, she had trouble getting it working, and so she kept having to mess with it like over and over and over, even during the test. So I hope my results don't get messed up. On the other side, it was like a wrist cuff, blood pressure gauge, something, and then it had another sensor that hooked into the side of it, and it ran to, it was like a finger cuff, and so she like wrapped it around my finger on my right hand. And then that one wouldn't work either because, I'm so sorry, it's been a long day. And she couldn't get that one to read either, and she just kept trying and trying and trying, and she said that one wasn't small enough, so she ended up having to get a pediatric finger cuff for that side. Finally got it all working and set up, and so I was supposed to lay there for 6 minutes and not talk and not move around and whatnot so we could get a baseline. But the cuff on that arm kept messing up, and so she kept having to mess with it. So I don't know how baseline the baseline is gonna be. I know my heart rate was over 100 to get started, and my blood pressure when it started, I think, was a couple of days ago when it was taken, it was 100 over like 62 or 64, and it was a little bit higher today. It was like 110 over something. It was still in the 60s. And then so she hits a button after the baseline is taken, and then the whole table tilts up. And I know some of the tests are different, but this is what my facility does, my cardiologist does. And so she hits a button and it stands you up, and I'm all strapped in, you know, so if I pass out, I'm okay. So she stands me up, and like your feet are flat on like a shelf, so it really is like you're standing up. But like I can always tell, like if I'm gonna pass out, I'll pass out, or black out, or tunnel vision or whatever, it happens like immediately. There's no waiting for it. There's no anything. And so I stood up, and it was about 25 seconds in, and I knew I wasn't going to pass out, which was awesome because I didn't want to. And then, so at this facility, you have to stand for 30 minutes or until you pass out or get sick, or I don't know what other options she said. That was all I remember. And so I stand up, and I can hear my heartbeat like on the Doppler, and I can hear it on whatever's happening on this wrist. And then whenever my blood pressure would be taken, that's like beeping to high heaven. And I had to take my sunglasses off. So she had turned the lights out in the room for me, which was super awesome. And so it was still kind of dark in the room. And she told me that anytime I had symptoms, I had to tell her what was happening. So, whether that be like chest pain or chest pressure, short of breath, dizzy, tunnel vision, blurry vision, nausea, like anything. And so it starts out, like it normally does, and I could feel blood pooling in my hands and in my feet as soon as she stood me up. And it felt like it was exacerbated by all the blood pressure, hoopy and whatnot. So I felt all the blood pooling, and I got chest pressure after that for the front and the back, and so it just kind of went on, and my vision started to blur. The room kind of darkened, like it wasn't like tunnel vision, like I was gonna pass out, but it was like my body was so tired just standing. I got super nauseous close to the end of the 30 minutes, which wasn't shocking. I'm nauseous all the time. I got short of breath about the last 8 minutes, something like that, super short of breath. And I started shaking, like uncontrollably shaking, head to toe, couldn't control it. It was like my body was fighting so hard to stay standing. And every once in a while, I would glance over to the monitors, like where it was showing all the results and all that stuff. And I was just kind of like watching my heartbeat get higher and higher and higher. And it went up to, I think the highest was like only like 130 or 140, which isn't anywhere close to my max. And, but like my blood pressure, I don't know what I don't know still. Sorry, I have all my eye drops and ointment and stuff in, it's being gross. So like, I didn't know if the blood pressure, like for a normal person, is supposed to go up or down, or somebody with POTS is supposed to go up or down. And so I was just watching it because I don't know what it's supposed to do or not supposed to do. Oh, I'm so sorry. And my blood pressure just kept going up and up and up and up. Like, I've never had blood pressure problems, and I've never really seen it high. And so it was kind of like disconcerting looking over, and like it went up to like normal, like 120/80, and then the bottom number stayed pretty the same, but the top number just kept going higher and higher and higher and higher. And I think it maxed out right at the end of the 30 minutes. It was like 160/90 something, I think is what it was. And my 30 minutes was up, and she put me back into a laying position. And I got to pull my legs up, which was awesome because it makes it so much easier on my stomach. And so I watched the monitor just again, to see like what it did. And my heart rate goes back down. It went all the way down to like 85, like super quick as soon as I laid down. And then my blood pressure returned back to normal too. It was like 112 over 70 or 65, something like that. It was back to what my normal is. And then she was like, okay, let me take these. Because I'm not seeing I didn't see my cardiologist today. I don't see him again until next Friday. And so she was going to take him over there and have him look and just make sure that everything was okay, that she didn't have to redo anything, especially with all the problems with the blood pressure cuffs and all that. And she was like, oh, hold on, let me at least undo your head cage. And so she popped the latch on the side, and it was like, it was so hard standing up, and I was so exhausted that I didn't even remember it was there. Like, I didn't even remember my head was in a cage. Like, I was just so glad to be laying down again. And so she popped that, so I made it better, even though I didn't remember it was there. And then she left for a while and talked to the cardiologist and came back in, and she said it was perfect. She's like, we got everything that we needed. And so she actually removed the cage, and she removed the nasal cannulas, which was, I hate those things. They're awful. And then she removed the cuffs, and she starts pulling, detaching the leads off of the sticky pads for the EKG. And so she's undoing the cables, and she's like, if you want to start pulling stickers, you can. And so I was pulling stickers, and she was removing that, and it was an ordeal. I knew that I would be super out of it if I passed out, obviously, but the fact that I didn't pass out, and it was just, but I don't stand like that, because obviously it makes me feel bad. So I don't stand for super long periods of time. And so I was so exhausted afterwards. And all of that took about an hour. And then, so that put it at like 1:30. So we still had 2 more hours to wait for my sonograms that were done today. So my mom and I went downstairs, and I was freezing. So we went outside. It was like 102 today. We found a shady bench, and it was windy, and it was nice. And so we sat down there, and I warmed up and had to deal with work drama, and we just kind of sat out there until it got too hot, and then we went back inside. And so we waited about 2 hours and just futzed around in the mezzanine of that building of the hospital. Okay, guys, I am gonna cut the video here, and the other information on the 2 sonograms that I had done, I'm going to put in another video, because this one ended up being a lot longer than I thought it was going to be, so I'll just cut them and put it into another. So that's it. I hope this helps. It's a lot of information to process, but hopefully it'll give some good answers. So if you like the video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe below, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.